welcome back into another One Piece card game video, and today we're going to talk about Purple Luffy. This is going to be the first OP05 leader guide, and if you want to see more, definitely subscribe because I'm going to go through pretty much all of them. Purple Luffy is, I'd say, going to be the most popular one coming out of OP05. I think it is not so much the easiest deck, but it is really familiar. As soon as you start picking it up, after a few games, you can kind of understand what it wants to do. And that all starts with the leader. It says, activate main once per turn. You may add one card from the top of your life cards to your hand. If you have 0 or 3 or more Dawn on your field, you get to add up to 1 Dawn from your deck and set it to active. And what this means basically is that, well, two things. One, it is a effectively ramped deck, but this is different from the red-purple Luffy that we have because you can only do it so much. You have a 5 life total, while red purple Luffy has to wait until they're at 0, technically if you play the 10 drop, or if you're at 8 in order to play or use the activate main. What happens with this leader is that basically after turn 2 you can start ramping and use your life cards as ramp, basically. Now before I go into my list and the explanations and the engine that I'm using, I would recommend to take a look at the articles on the One Piece Top Decks website. I'll link in the description below, but these are pretty straightforward. They aren't like super complicated deck lists, and as well as the thoughts behind them are pretty straightforward as well, as far as like matchup dependent and how you should play your curve. And I think this one by Jude from the Philippines is actually pretty good because it just has a bunch of vanillas, right? It just has a bunch of vanillas, has the purple good stuff, has Queen, has Kaido at the top end, and you're playing the new 5-drop kid, which we'll go over in a little bit. And of course, here are the matchups and a little bit of the explanation as well. The other one is the I think in Japan, yeah, I think this is the Japanese one. You got third in a preliminary and a couple other different tournaments. This list as well is also pretty straightforward, but it is a little different. It is a little different. It plays the page 1 package as well. When I say this deck is very straightforward, it doesn't mean that the decks can't be a little bit different. So I recommend that both that you do take a look at both of these articles to get some matchup knowledge and just some information that you might not get out of this video. And for me, I am playing the film package, and the reason why is because 1, I like it. 2, I like the secret rare Uda, so I wanted to see if I could make it work. And 3, the curve is not that different from the other purple Luffy decks, and it kind of offers some different utility in the Uta, the 4-drop, and as well as the Shiki, which is pretty good against anything that's not blue. Now, when we talk about the leader itself, you have a built-in ramp ability, right? So what are we ramping into? Outside of the film package that actually helps you get into that curve and play the cards that you need to, the ramp targets are really the ones you see here. We have Kid when going second on second turn. So you go to 4 Dawn on second turn, you ramp 1 Dawn, you play out the Kid, and then that sets you up for all of the minus Dawn effects from Magellan to the 7-drop Kid here that gives you 1000 power until the end of the next turn. Uta that does the same thing, but everything gets that 1000 power, so your blocker, your everything gets it. Kaido now gives you an additional Dawn, and it helps you ramp a little bit faster after you use the 9-drop Kaido. And of course, Monkey D. Luffy, which doesn't really help, or I should say the 5-drop doesn't help the Monkey D. Luffy. It is just a ramp target. I have tried to use this card. I think it's a great card. It is very situational, in which, hey, if you cannot get around 2 turns of my leader, as in you don't have a blocker, as in you have 0 life, as in you don't have enough cards in hand, etc., etc., and of course a 12k swing, it basically says you have a free 12k swing, then it is a really good card. I took it out as a 1 of, and if I put it back in, I feel like it should be a 1 or 2 of at least. So I do recommend that you try to go with this 10-drop. And if you didn't know, it's an on play -10. You bottom deck all your cards on the field, and then, except for this one, of course, and then activate main, you pay 1 Dawn in order to ramp 1 Dawn. You get 1 active back. And the reason why your leader is able to do it at 0 Dawn is because of this card. So you can use the 0 Dawn effect, use the 1 Dawn afterwards for Luffy, the 10-drop, use the ability to take another turn. That's the biggest part. You get to take another turn, and then you go to 4 Dawn. After the 4 Dawn, you can attach that to your leader to swing 9 and then swing 12 for Luffy. But if you had a healthy life total and you're fine, this is the reason why you use so many 4-drop targets. It's because you have 4 Dawn to use. So overall, I like the card. It's an awesome secret rare. Obviously the transformation is iconic, etc. So if I'm playing the film package, what does the deck list look like? Okay, well, this is what it looks like. It is a little bit different, but also a little similar from other purple Luffy deck lists. And the reason, again, why I like it is because we have that one of Uda, we have the Shiki, we have the Buena Vista to look up all the targets from the Shiki, 2K, the Uta, the 4-drop vanilla card, the secret rare, which you can easily play at 2. I just played it at 1 because I wanted to make sure I reduce the amount of non-counter cards in my hand, which is very easy in purple decks. And we're still playing Kaido at 3 and Kid at 3 because I think that is the right ratios for this. And of course, Poly. We didn't really talk about Poly too much, but it really helps you when you are going really first or second. But basically, whenever you're at 7 Dawn, you can use Poly, go to 8 Dawn, use that ability of your leader if you really wanted to, but you have that active Dawn afterwards for a Blast Breath or something else. Now let's talk about the lines of play and going first and second. So this is at least what I've found. You know, you can go a different route if you really want to, but this is what I suggest to at least try out and to find your footing with this deck in general. Honestly, the turn 1 play doesn't have to be Buena Vista. You gotta remember that this guy is a 2K counter in hand, and you don't have 1,000 targets for film. But if you don't have a Uta, if you don't have a Bins, if you don't have something to play in the next couple turns, you may as well use him as a searcher. Otherwise, you can just protect against swings, because the reason why you want to do that early on is because you want to use your leader ability in order to take life from your life area back to your hand and then use it to gain a Dawn. Turn 2 is pretty much any 4-drop. You really want to play a 4-drop. You want to take advantage of your leader ability and get that on the field. And basically anything you get from your life area, you can use that as defense, so that way you're not taking more life later on. And if you're playing the Uta, hey, that's a blocker right there. If you're playing Bins, that's an attacker for the next turn, etc. Now turn 3 can be a number of things. I think it is best to keep Kid whenever on board at any time. If you have Kid in hand, you really want to make sure that he's on board. He is a 6K blocker, which is just good in general, but also that allows, again, the Kid, the Kaido, the Uta, whatever it may be, to be more effective. And if you are at 7 Dawn, or you can get to 7 Dawn on turn 3, Poly is really good, because now you can Poly and then immediately the next turn you can Kaido, or you can play Captain Kid, use leader ability, and then use Queen in order to have that extra Dawn, and then 2 6K blockers and a draw 2, which is technically a draw 3 if you use leader ability. So if you play perfect defense, you can use your leader ability 3 times, draw those 3 cards, and probably be fine. But reality is often not the way that you think. So sometimes it just doesn't go that way. Sometimes you have to wait until later into the game to use leader ability, or not even use it at all. But you really do want to use that early on to get that extra Dawn and play these bigger boys. Now, going second has been more comfortable for me, although we don't have very many going second turns or things that you can do going second. It is really after turn 1 that it is great. Like, you want to protect again. You want to make sure on turn 2 that you're using leader ability to go to 5 Dawn, play the Kid, and then turn 3 you could effectively use leader ability again, or just use Poly. And I think what usually happens is that if you use leader ability, you can use the 7-drop Kid in order to proc off of the Kid, the 5-drop Kid ability, and get that extra Dawn back into active, and now you have a 6K swing on your leader, and maybe even if you want, you can swing with your Kid, which I've done plenty of times. And then turn 4 and onwards, it's really your oyster. It just depends on what the situation is. Sometimes you'll be able to play these bigger boys and girls, but sometimes you won't. Here are some considerations. Like I said before, you can play the page 1 package because it goes perfectly with the 4 drop curve, and as well as what you need after you Luffy if you play the 10 drop, if you do that, or if you go first and then you have 3 Dawn and then you go into 4 Dawn to play the ulti or something similar, then you can do that as well. Sheep's Horn is pretty sweet, just like Color's Trap. Both of these guys are pretty sweet. Shout out to Hayden. He loves Water 7 stuff. So, you know, the Gatling is searchable in Water 7. I believe the other card is Water 7 is searchable too. That does similar things, like Sheep Horn and as well as Color's Trap. I think is the OP05 card. And of course, Jack. I don't know why I put this guy in here, but hey, there's another ramp ability. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Purple's in a pretty good place, and this leader is the reason why. Again, take a look at those 2 articles to take a look at, you know, the overseas and how things are in that format. Yeah, let's get into gameplay to see what's going on in ours. All right, so we're gonna start out with this. It's gonna be against blue purple Kaido. He chose to go second and kept this hand because why not? This was a double Buena Vista hand, found another Buena Vista, but can't take it, so that's great. He went ahead and swung with 5. I didn't want to take out any of my 2Ks, even though you should be defending here since we're taking a life on our own. And we're going to go ahead and throw him off curve, delaying that 10 drop Kaido if he does see it. Didn't really seem like he was getting too many good things out of this. Drew a Queen, which is pretty good. You know, 5 drop 6K blocker. Didn't have anything else to use, and I think that 4 right there, if you notice, would have been a 5 if we didn't use Magellan. So basically, throwing him off curve with the island even in play, it was really a huge detriment to him. We did go to 1, which is kind of scary, but they are at 2. We have 2 6K bodies on board. He plays out the 5 drop Queen and swings 8, which Blast Breath perfectly comes down right then and there. And I think I was just trying to figure out if I wanted him to play the Uta or if I wanted to play something else. And, you know, Law was a good pick here since he was at 7. And we're just going to go ahead and swing the 6s here for the Queen. A 5 here because he went ahead and got that out. We have 1 more Blast Breath in hand. So this Uta play, if we do play it, is going to be pretty good because we have so many bodies on board. It's going to be even better if we get our kid on board as well. I think he's going to swing 7 to something here. I don't think that was the right swing. Probably should have done to my face, if anything. And we're going to go ahead and pop him with the Kaido, and that was it. He really didn't have anything in hand afterwards, and we just kind of allowed ourselves to win there really quickly because of the Kaido. And yeah, sure, we could have played the Uta, sure, we could have played the kid, but because he had a blocker, I think it was best just to go ahead and play the Kaido, especially since we're staring down that king swing next turn. All right, next up is gonna be this Katakuri, and we did choose to go first. Well, we didn't choose, but he chose us to go first, and he did take that first swing, which we did play the Law in response because he did go up to 7 cards right after that initial swing, which is something you have to keep in mind. Like anytime you're playing against purple, you just have to keep in mind your hand size. It is a bummer in general, but that's okay. I was just double checking and seeing what he actually drew from the initial pudding search, and he did get a 5 or a 10 cost Lin, which is a kind of a bummer. We swung 5 there because even if he did Thunderbolt, I mean, that's just how it is, honestly. We could have swung into a Sparrow, but that's okay. He swung 5 here, which is not that big of a deal because he is going to go ahead and play the Lin. This is where it gets kind of scary because honestly, when they have pretty big targets here, you know, the 7 drop, the 10 drop, 8 drop, etc., it gets a little out of hand, and like, you know, we just have to kind of defend and build board where we can. So we have a 6K And along with that, a 7-cost kid. The Magellan did throw him off just a tad as well. And he's gonna go ahead and swing 8 here on our 6 because of this the kid. We can't afford to trash a life here. So I think what we gotta do is just defense it up. We already know he has a 10 drop in hand, so he's just gonna be able to use that no matter what. He does get the Sanji trigger, which is pretty annoying, but that's okay. I'm just doing math here, and I think we're just being a little aggressive. And the only downside of this play is that he can Thunderbolt at any time and kind of just hurt me. So I think he just forgot. This is just like sim stuff. That's just a sim thing of him just forgetting that he can't swing my leader because he's a 5k for both his leader and as well as his Sanji. So him swinging with the Sanji there was a little greedy, and he just needed to be kind of aware of what's going on. So we are just swinging to the face as much as as possible. We swung with the lower end of the 6s, the 5s, the 6s again, the queen even, and as well as the kid into our leader swing, and then Kaido. But he went ahead and conceded. I mean, didn't really have anything from there. Didn't have any triggers. Didn't get lucky enough to get those, but he did get the Sanji, which he kind of he threw that one. But I mean, even if our Kaido can get past that, that's the power of the kid right there, of that 1000 power. It makes a big difference. All right, here comes another yellow deck, and honestly, like for purple going against yellow, you really do want to play the Magellans as much as possible, which is why we're keeping it. We are going first as well. So on our next turn, we're probably going to play Bins, and then we're going to play Kid, and then we're just going to see what we can do with our Magellan. But you do really have the choice of, like, do you want to play Magellan, or do you want to play the 5-drop Kid? And in this instance, I do want to get a 7-drop Kid in our hand, because with these 5 and 6k swings, that Ohm becomes a 5k swing pretty soon here when he's at 2 life. But thankfully, only 5k swings now with his leader and as well as his Holly. So we're not stressing too much. Yeah, he totally forgot. So if you read the text there, if you have 2 or less life, he is a 6k. So we're going to pitch these 2 cards, and we're just going to keep protecting our Bins, because it is just, well, 1, he was just going to do that. And 2, it just makes more sense for us to protect our swings here. So 5 into the Holly, he just lets it go. 6 into the however you say his name, and then we're just gonna blocker it up. If he wants a Thunderbolt, that's okay. I mean, it's probably not that big of a deal for him to Thunderbolt here, because he would be at 1, and it would just trigger his effect. But we're gonna go ahead and just see an 8-cost Katakuri go into the Shura, and that's just a guaranteed trigger, which is fine. We didn't bother to swing at the Ohm because it is a 5k or a 6k, sorry, and we're just gonna pop it anyway to have that extra swing. We're gonna swing 7. The reason why I'm doing this is because when they are at 1, you really want to swing as much as possible and as hard as possible to get the cards out of their hand. So when you get to a kill turn with multiple swings like this, you want them to be at 1. So they're gonna do everything they can in order to prevent that, basically. So I Blast Breathed out of that, and I was just deciding if it was worth to block, but it didn't look like that was the case. We're gonna Magellan to get that extra Dawn back, and as well as have another 6k body on board. I don't think it was too big of a deal to play the Law out, just to have another blocker, but I mean, we have 2, and I'd rather have the 6k swing along with the trigger. So we're swinging at face for him to get some cards out of hand, and then we swung 10 to his Katakuri, which basically said that he just had a dump hand and protect it. So he did swing at my Kaido, which was easily countered out, and he plays another Katakuri, which we immediately get rid of the initial one. I was deciding what do I want to do with my Dawn, and I think the best bet here is just to try to go for game, but I got to be a little bit careful. And I was deciding if I wanted to play the 8-cost kit or 7-cost kit or not. So I think what we should have done here is probably swing 5 with Uda first, and then swing the 7s. But he could get pretty lucky here and what he gets, but it doesn't look like that's the case. We're gonna go ahead and hit 7 and then a 9, and it's pretty much perfect math there. I think we could have used leader effect to get to 10 too. I think that's another thing that I didn't mention in early in the video, is that you could use that when you have all this other Dawn used and that extra Dawn from the minus effect from Kid or whatever, and then use that as an extra Dawn to go for game. Because you're not, I mean, we're not living the next turn for sure. This is the turn to go for a game, and that's just how you beat Enel. You have to have multiple swings, and you have to make sure that they don't have such a big hand, and hopefully these triggers that would interrupt you. So like blockers and beige and things like that. Those are really the things that you have to play around, and sometimes you can't. Those are the things that just end up running into your face, and you can't really do anything about it. But hopefully that showcases a little bit of the deck. I went back and forth on ratios and things like that. So there's been a lot of different versions of this version of the deck. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Subscribe if you are new, and let me know what the next deck I should do. See you next one.